and welcome to another episode of FooBar. Today, I want to talk about one of the biggest launches from Step Function this year and maybe in the last years. That is the capability of integrating all AWS services that has API support or SDK support with Step Functions. That means no more lambdas. Not glue lambdas in place just to call an API to do something in S3 or to do something in some other service. That's mind-blowing. Over 200 services, 9,000 APIs have integration now with Step Functions. This changed the games on how we build our Step Functions. If you're watching all this and you have no idea what Step Functions are, why I'm so happy about this announcement, well, I have a whole playlist talking about Step Functions and how cool they are. The link is in the description box. Go and check it out. But coming back to the video of today, this is a launch that happened last week and it's not even reinvented yet. And I want to show you this launch with a demo because I think it's the easiest way to put in perspective how it goes. I have prepared a PowerPoint because it's easier to explain, but let's go to the demo and see it in action. So imagine you want to transcribe and translate a video that is in English into Spanish. So you have the English video with people speaking English and you want to get in the other side the text in Spanish of that video. So basically you need to use the services, transcribe and translate. If we were doing this like 2 weeks ago, we will use a Lambda function that will call the API for the transcribe to start a transcription job, and then it will pass that transcription job into the translate and we'll get the output. You can also use Step Functions for this. You can have 2 Lambda functions, one that invokes the transcribe, one that invokes the translate, and get the same result. But if we do this today, we can have no Lambda functions whatsoever. We can invoke directly from our state machine the transcribe to the transcription using the APIs and the translate. And here is where it comes in play, the Amazon state language. I have talked a lot about it, but we never got into depth in it. But when you are able now to do all these kind of hooks, you will see how learning the language is very, very important for getting the best results and adding the least amount of business logic or functions into your state machines. So if we want to do this demo completely, we will need also to interact with S3 because I imagine you're going to save the video somewhere and S3 is the right place to do it. So you might need to get an object and do some things, and usually transcribe saves the results in an S3 object as well. So you need to do some manipulation with S3. So that's also something you need to have in place. And that's something we always have done with Lambda functions. So this is a state machine I'm going to build, and it looks quite big, I know, but I will break it down for you and I will show you how I use some of the features of the Amazon state language to do everything without any single Lambda function. And you can do this for any examples you have. Maybe you have state machines to monitor your infrastructure, your processes, your sales, whatever you do with state machines. If they're calling AWS services that have SDK support, you might be able to refactor them into something Lambda-less. So this is how the state machine looks. There is many states in the state machine. So there is some states that are invoking. There is some states that are calling the S3. There is some states that are calling transcribe. There is some states that are calling translate. And there is some flow states specifically from state machines. So let's go step by step and see what is going on. I will not show you the code all in one file. The code is always available in GitHub, so you can go and check it out. But I think it's better to show it in pieces like this. So we have the get video. This is getting the video from S3. And this is something we can do with an API call. So we will do a task. So all these things are done with a task. So whenever you want to call something from an API, you use the task, and then in the resource you put the kind of API parameters. So you will put AWS states, AWS SDK, then the name of the service. In this case is S3, and then the name of the API that you're calling. In this case is copy object. Here we will always use this format, so whenever you're putting the resource name, copy object will be a small case for the first letter, and then it's camel case from there. So this is the first step, the get sample video. So what this does is to copy an object from an S3 bucket into another S3 bucket. So in this case, we will put our sample video somewhere. It can be in our bucket or it can be somewhere else. And we will copy to the bucket of this project so we can start processing it. You might say, I don't need this step. Well, I want to show you how to use S3. So here you can see that we are using the Step Functions SDK integration. That is this new feature. And always when we want to use this feature, we will need to use a task. So the type of state we need for the step function is the type task. And then the resource is the name of the API that we are invoking. So in this case, you will see that this says ARNN, AWS states, AWS SDK, S3, that is the name of the service that we are invoking, where this API belongs, and then copy object, that is the name of the API that we are invoking. The name of the API that we are always invoking needs to be in a camel case, but with the first letter in a small case. So in this case, you will see copy, it has a small case, and object is a camel case. So that's important. So this is the way that the whole calling different APIs is done. And if you search in the internet, you put AWS API S3 copy object, you will be popped to the documentation of this API, and you can see the parameters that it takes. And the parameters that it takes in order to copy an object from bucket 1 to bucket 2 is this one. So you need the bucket and the key for the destination object, so where you're going to store it and with what name, and then what you're going to copy, basically the bucket of origin and the key of origin. And with that, it will do the copying for you. Remember, this is important, that the step functions need to have permissions to access that S3 bucket. So when you're doing this, you need to give permissions to the step function to access S3 or do whatever task it can do. So that's something very, very important, and we will see it later when we define the state machine. So the next step is to start the transcription job. So how the service transcribe works is that it will start an asynchronous job. So you pass a video and it will take it and it will do it asynchronously. So it will not block you. It will tell you, okay, I just started. This is the job ID. Have fun with it. And then you can go to the API and make sure that the job is done or not, and you can wait for it. So we will start this transcription job, and we will also do it with the new integration, the SDK integration. So you can see here that our state, this start transcription job, is a type task because we are doing the integration, and the resource, again, it says transcribe, that is the name of the service, and then it says start transcription job, that is the name of the API. If you search in Google, you put AWS API transcribe start transcription job, it will tell you what are the parameters that this API needs. And then you will see that you need a kind of a link to where the media that we are transcribing is. So in this case is our bucket URL, the object URL of the bucket that we just copied. Then we need to give a name for this job, and the name needs to be unique. So here I'm using some kind of execution ID from the state machine. Then you need to tell, this is something, it's optional, but I like to tell it so it's simpler. What is the language code, in which language the video or the file that we are transcribing is. I will say that it's in English from USA. And then where you want to store the transcription, and in this case is in my working bucket under an object name called transcribe.json. And this will start doing itself. It will give me the transcription ID or whatever, and then we can go to the next step, that is to wait. So here is kind of what we call a polling loop, and this is something very good from Step Functions. It's so simple to do. Add a wait state, a check of some kind to make sure, in this case, that the job is done. And then if the job is done, then we can continue down the path. Or if the job is not done, then we can go again and wait. So these three tasks are called a polling loop, and you can do them for any kind of asynchronous task when you need to wait. So we will have a wait state, that is one of the flow states from state functions, where basically you can say how many seconds to wait. In this case, 20 seconds, because we need to, it's the job takes, I don't know, depending on the length of the video that your input might take 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you don't know, so I put 20 seconds. And then you can see there that I'm using the output path, and in that way I'm keeping the transcription job ID and I'm passing it forward, because the check transcription kind of check that needs the job ID, so I'm passing it forward. And again, this check if transcription is done state is one of those states using the AWS SDK integration, and it's another task, and it's calling the transcribe and it's calling the get transcription job. And we have the parameters, that is basically the job name, and then it will tell us if the job is completed or not. And then it's when it comes the kind of logic, that is the state that says, is transcription done? And here is a type choice. So this is one of the flow states from Step Functions. And here we have two choices, basically the default or the other one. So the other one is if the string is equals to complete, meaning that the job is done, we just finished the transcription, then we can move to the next state. If not, by default, we will wait 20 seconds more. So this is a very important kind of pattern when you're building step functions. Sometimes there is asynchronous things and you can wait. And this is something we don't do with Lambda, so this is very, very powerful when you're doing state machines. So again, don't forget to give permissions to your state machines to be able to start the synchronous job, to be able to get the transcription job status and all those things. Then the next steps are the ones that we are going to get the transcription text from the S3 bucket. So we are going into the S3 bucket and we are going to get an object from the S3 bucket. We are looking inside and we are getting the contents of that bucket. So this is super cool, and this is something that we always do with Lambda functions, and you can do it here. And then we are having this pass state that basically is cleaning up and passing just what we want from this result of the get object. So the get transcription text is another integration into S3, a state of the type task, and we are using the S3 service and the get object action. So the parameters in this case are the bucket name and the key, and then we can add this result selector. And this is quite cool because basically we can use some of the intrinsic functions that the Amazon state language provides, that in this case is to convert a string to a JSON, to be able to get the whole body of the file that the transcription shop has put in there. And this is quite handy because the transcription shop just dump a huge file with a lot of information in our S3 bucket. That file is massive, and if we pass directly that to the translate, it will fail because the translate has some kind of limits on how much it can translate at once, and it also will get a lot of gibberish. There is a lot of metadata. There is a lot of things that we don't care. So now we have get that file content into in a format of a JSON. So then in the next state, in the one that says prepare transcript test, we are getting only the transcription from that JSON, because now we know it's a JSON, we can parse it, we can look at it. So we will do give me from the results, first transcript and the transcript itself, and I will put that in an object called transcript, and that's what I will pass to the translate to do the translation. So here you can see a lot of the things that we do with Lambda functions, that we do this manipulation of JSON, that we do all this getting the objects from S3, cleaning it up, passing it to the next. We can do it with Amazon state language. So this comes to a new level of our usage of the state languages. And finally, we have the last step, that is basically calling the translation, and we will pass that transcript that we just pick from the object of the transcription, and we will say that the source is in English and we want to get the translation in Spanish, and we are calling the translate service in the translate text API, and we will put everything in the translate result path. So we will get at our output an attribute that says translate, and we will have that text. And this is the last state. So if you're still here and you're watching this, have you liked this video? Are you already subscribed? I'm waiting. I will not show you the code until you don't do that. Let's continue. So now you have seen how the state machine is organized, so I want to show you the code. The code is very minimal. The link is in the description of this video as always in GitHub. So let's look at that. Let's also look at what happens after we deploy the service into the cloud, and we can check the state machine and we can execute it, and I'll do all those things. The code has two files. I have put this in a SAM template, but there is no Lambda function, so it's basically CloudFormation. So you will see that there is the template YAML, and there you will find the state machine, and it's a standard state machine because I want to see some of the logs. You can make it express if you want. There is the name of the state machine. There is the definition URL, that is what we just seen, that state machine Amazon state language ASL JSON that I just show you in the slide deck. There is the definition substitution. So this is the way that I can give you that state machine, and I can personalize it with some information. In this case, the bucket name where we are getting the input, so where we are storing the initial video. So I'm getting that in my parameters when I deploy. Then we have the bucket that this template is creating, where we are doing all the processing. And finally, the role for this step machine that has access to do all these operations that we mentioned that needs permission. So you can see in the role that it has permissions to start a transcription job, get the transcription job, start the translate, and do some things with X-ray and things like that. And also it has access to S3, so we can manipulate the data there as well. And this is very simple. Then you can see the state machine. I already show it to you in bits and pieces. It's kind of a long file, but if you render it, you will see that a drawing that I've been showing you. If you want to render it, you can use the AWS extension in Visual Studio Code. Then you can deploy this. If you deploy it for the first time, Sam deployed that's just guided. I already deployed it, so I will not do that. If you deploy it for the first time, it will ask you for the bucket and the key for your initial file. So create a bucket, put the file in there, and then you can give those permissions. You can give those parameters in your deployment, and then everything will handle. So after you deploy, you will see the state machine in your state step functions console. You will see I have a couple of executions because I tested this already. And you will see the definition. That is exactly what I show you, is the Amazon state language JSON in one side, the definition in the other one. If you want to edit it, you have access now to the Workflow Studio. If you don't know what is that, link in the description. But now you can basically create this visually as well. I'm a fan of infrastructure as code, but this is a great tool also to start from somewhere, and then you get the infrastructure as code, you get the definition of the function as well. So you can build that with this. It has the support for the SDK integration as well. So that's a great way to go. So if we go back to state machine, we can see there that we can start an execution, and in here it doesn't matter the parameters you put in because they're all configured already in the infrastructure as code. You can see that the state is running, and you will see now that the execution goes, and it goes quite fast because I'm speeding this up. It takes a little while in reality, but it just goes quite fast. It depends on the size of the video you put as an input. In my case, it takes maybe 1 or 2 minutes to execute everything because that transcription is slow. And then you can see if you click on the last step or in the output of the state machine, you can see that translation has happened. So you can see the transcript there. That is what this person is talking about. This is a video about the step functions. And there you can see the translate, and you can see the same text. Well, not the same, it's in Spanish now. So that's working, and there is no Lambda functions. If you go down, then you can see all the different steps. So that's what I pick as standard, because this is something you get with standard state machines. You get all these logins very specific, and you can deep dive in the executions. So that's what I wanted to show you, but you can do this as an express. It's no problem. It depends on how you're doing it, but definitely you can do it as well. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, you like learning more about step functions. It's one of my favorite services of all time. So I hope you like this, and I see you in another episode of FooBar. Ciao, ciao!